This video was intended to inform and educate the public.
What you gonna do when they come for you?
Then a man wrongfully convicted of a 2002 robbery is suing the City of Memphis and police officers, alleging they fabricated and suppressed evidence.
Could you put a price tag on 20 years of your life spent in prison for a crime that you did not commit, all because you were framed and convicted by a system of justice that seems to have no justice at all? That is today's video here on The Junkyard News. This story, the story of artist Whitehead, a story of injustice and vindication, in a harrowing tale of wrongful conviction, artist Whitehead has emerged as the latest face of systemic injustice following his release after spending 20 years behind bars for a crime that he never committed. Now, Whitehead is seeking justice of his own, filing a sweeping lawsuit against police officers he claims framed him, as well as the city that failed to protect his rights.
Holy flip-flop! What's happened to justice?
He is quoted as saying, "Can you really put a price tag on 20 years of your life?" Now let's talk about his conviction. In 2004, Whitehead was convicted of armed robbery and attempted murder in a case on what has now been exposed as fabricated evidence and coerced testimony. You see, Whitehead, then 24, consistently maintained his innocence, but a lack of resources and mounting public pressure to close this case led to a rushed and deeply flawed trial. Key evidence that could have exonerated Whitehead, including surveillance footage and forensic reports, was either ignored, hidden, or deliberately withheld by investigating officers. The prosecution's case rested primarily on the testimony of a single witness, who later recanted, stating that their statement was coerced by police officers. This revelation, along with newly unearthed evidence pointing to prosecutorial misconduct, paved the way for Whitehead's release. In 2023, Whitehead's legal team uncovered a trove of documents that had been buried for nearly 2 decades. These records did show that officers on the case fabricated their reports and tampered with evidence just to secure a conviction of an innocent man. Among the most damning revelations was a memo from one of the lead investigators acknowledging the presence of another suspect who was later ignored in favor of implicating Whitehead instead. The new evidence was presented to a state appeals court, which overturned Whitehead's conviction in early 2024. Whitehead's attorney, in a quote, said, "This is a sobering reminder of the devastating consequences of systemic corruption in our justice system." Now, Whitehead has filed a lawsuit. With his conviction overturned, Whitehead has filed a federal lawsuit against the officers involved in his case, accusing them of framing him and violating his constitutional rights. The lawsuit also names the city, alleging a pattern of negligence and misconduct within the police department. For 20 years, he sat in a cell knowing he was innocent. For 20 years! 20 years of his life! He sat in a cell knowing all along that he was innocent. No one should have to endure what this man went through. Whitehead was quoted as saying, "This fight is not just about me. It's about ensuring this doesn't happen to anybody else." The suit seeks unspecified damages for emotional distress, loss of income, and irreparable harm caused to Whitehead's life and his reputation. Legal experts predict that the case would result in a multi-million-dollar settlement, but Whitehead's attorney emphasizes that accountability, not financial gain, is their primary goal. Whitehead's story has sparked a widespread outrage and reignited calls for police reform and greater accountability within the justice system. Advocacy groups have rallied behind him, using his case to highlight the broader issue of wrongful convictions in this country.
Something wrong, officer?
Yeah, got a taillight out.
Where?
Right there.
You know, one day honest citizens are gonna stand up to you crooked cops.
They are? Oh no. Have they set a date?
We must demand transparency and systemic change to prevent these tragedies from ever happening. Now, despite the pain of his wrongful imprisonment, Whitehead remains determined to rebuild his life as best he can. He has expressed interest in working with advocacy organizations to support others who have been wrongfully convicted. Whitehead is quoted as saying that he lost 20 years of his life. But I'm not going to let this define me as a person. My goal now is to fight for justice for others who have been silenced. As Whitehead's lawsuit moves forward, his story serves as a stark reminder of the human cost of a flawed justice system and the enduring resilience of those who fight for the truth. His journey, though far from over, is already inspiring a national conversation about the urgent need for police reform. Now, during his 20 years of wrongful incarceration, Whitehead was quoted as saying that, "My parents died while I was incarcerated. I have strained relationships now with my children. I miss the birth of all my grandchildren." You can't put a price tag on 20 years of someone's life. Not only that, his children, of which there are 5 of them, were young when he was arrested, and Whitehead noted Monday that his children, growing up without him in their life, not only hurt him, but them as well. Whitehead's lawsuit alleges the officers who investigated his case did intentionally work to frame him after not having a suspect 8 months into their investigation. It's also claimed that they withheld vital and crucial evidence, including the identity of a mysterious informant that could have prevented his conviction during the initial trial. The lawsuit also cites heavily from the U.S. Department of Justice findings report, a byproduct of its investigation into the Memphis Police Department. Quinn Rowlands, one of Whitehead's attorney, was quoted as saying, "Supervisors are still, to this day, conducting inadequate investigations and inadequately disciplining officers for misconduct." Mr. Whitehead knows all too well the impact of these department policies and practices. In the years before, during, and after Whitehead's conviction, the City of Memphis failed to provide officers with adequate training in many areas, including people's constitutional rights and the right to have evidence be preserved, and also to disclose all evidence to the defense during a trial. A police department where officers are allowed to fabricate and suppress evidence is not a police department that any city deserves.
Suing the City of Memphis and police officers, alleging they fabricated and suppressed evidence after his conviction was overturned last December. Artist Whitehead was finally released after serving 20 years. The suit seeks compensation, accountability, and reforms to prevent future injustices after a DOJ investigation highlighting deficiencies in MPD's constitutional standards.
Thank you again for watching this video here on the Junkyard News. Be careful, people. I'm telling you, this man framed 20 years behind bars. Can you imagine being locked in a cell, in a cage, for 20 years, and every day waking up, opening your eyes, knowing you shouldn't be there, you didn't do it, and you were framed? I'm amazed this man still has his sanity. I would probably have gone mad a long time ago. Be careful, people, or the next story we cover on this channel, we could be talking about you in an interaction you have, a Leo, in the next one. Thanks again.